tribe, how are you? I I felt really inspired to talk about judgment today. There's been so many kind of heightened energies around all of this stuff, and so much really potent shifts that we've been undergoing, both subtle and gross, so on the kind of material plane, and we're observing more of, the dominant collective and the masses, you could say, really. It's almost like the lids are blowing. There's so much pressure building up inside of people, and the mass denial is ultimately like this core wound, this mass denial and this living in separation is ultimately which what perpetuates judgment. And the judgment in us is really those subtler aspects that mask more of our wounding, I suppose. And of course, the way we refer to it in the book is ultimately judgments are sort of thought form and then energetic blocks to bliss, right? So the thought form is an attack on some level. And part of the, I guess, the double edge of judgment is that we can often judge situations to make us feel better. Yeah. And we can judge situations to make us feel bad. Any time that we're giving power to the external reality, we're in essence in judgment because we're not in our creatorship. So whether we're judging something as good or bad or right or wrong, we're likely to be and the double edge is like it can feel good temporarily because it might be that judgment blocks a deeper wound and allows us to believe a thought that makes us think something about ourselves in opposition to other or in opposition to a situation. And I recently shared something with a mentor and then with a good friend, and it was not an it was kind of like a nasty thing. It was something regarding a situation, and because the situation was, and I know deep down that the situation's getting worse because I know intuitively that I'll probably have to leave, or that, see the language of making excuses, I'll have to leave. And yet I'm feeling into that perfect timing and that divine timing. And one can make excuses to make ourselves feel better, so that's the thing about this soul vibration dance of like we think we're pursuing these high vibrations, but actually it is a perpetual cycle and it is perpetual up and down. It's simply how we interpret, perceive, and choose to think about those ups and downs that either blocks our potential for bliss or invokes it or brings it in. And again, we're interfacing or feedbacking off of our reality. And straight up, you guys, the reason we got to sit in those emotional storms is because it's really those emotional storms which help us clear density to the point that we don't need to consciously necessarily know. And trust me, when you do need to know for whatever reason, so if you're meant to for some reason have an experience of a past life, you're likely in one of your emotional storms, or in some experience that you create, you're likely to call that in. If you're meant to have a cosmic experience, you're likely to call it in. If you're likely, whatever, right? We're the creators, and so we're calling in these experiences. But if we're sitting with something like and we're masking it with a positive thought, or masking it with a then we can often miss some of the juicy nuggets which we're afraid of. But if we're just, oh no, it's so lovely, so, oh no, they mean well, they're so, or da 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 da, and we just kind of keep it in that surface level, then ultimately we don't have the energetic ammunition to take action, to take inspired action. So it's all linked together, how we're processing and healing our emotional body, how we're using that process to inherently access higher vibrational thought that is inspired, thought that makes us feel good, thoughts that inspire others, like opening our heart, because judgment is a thought. Judgment is the thought projection that blocks the connection to unity. And whether we're better than somebody or worse than somebody, we're not in unity with them. We're not in oneness with them. So our discerning capacity in regards to our own mental projection. And guys, this has been coming in really powerful. Like, that we don't feel the need to psychoanalyze and figure other people out. That's like the biggest paradox, isn't it? And we all do it. Trust me, I've been going through heartache. I've been spending many, many, many hours in silence and in discussion trying to figure out why. And every time I go into that spin, I will go down a rabbit hole of why this, why that, look at all the different situations, and then it always just comes back to me. So it's better just to focus on me, because that's the only container that I can be responsible for, and work on my container to be the loving beacon that I desire to be, and then love the other. Just love the other, unconditional. Most of our negative thought projection, all of them, most, all of them, all of our negative thought projections, they're not real. And curiously, nor are our positive ones, right? I talk about this in the book. We are so kind of addicted to thought, and we're so thinking that it's all real, that's attachment. We actually attach our own powerful, powerful identity to the stuff around us, to the people around us, rather than integrating it, being it, and then radiating your broader reality outward. That's the quantum manifestation piece. So, you guys, as some of you know, Team Love, myself, Jen, and Katie were at Wonderfields. There's just such incredible shifts happening, and it's happening in a very accelerated way. And just to feedback to you guys that one thing that we are experiencing is this rather intense and heightened contrast. So it's like seeing the contrast of a feeling, a thought, whatever, manifestation, but very quickly. So like within a day, we might have 2 or 3 emotional storms. Yay! Certainly some waves can come up. And yeah, that is fairly accurate. That's past for me, but like the last couple of years, that was pretty much, I was processing a lot, like every day, and often like having not necessarily like a heavy duty one, but having little emotional storms throughout the day, whether I'm driving or just sitting and then letting it purge, letting it come out, and then moving through. And yeah, you just keep going. And it gets easier, and it's just this weird paradox, you guys, of us collectively just thinking that when we're crying something's wrong, because people automatically assume if there's like tension or if we're crying, like, oh no, and then we project all that stuff rather than just being a grounded presence of love. Unconditional love is neutrality, because it brings sort of a tenderness to my heart. Because even like the murderers, even the murderers need love. Even those, the compassionate vegans in us, like, we know deep down that even, people slaughtering animals, they need love too. Animals need love. Everybody needs love. Even Donald Trump needs love. So we can just keep loving, and we can just keep showing up for ourselves and one another. And get into it. Get into those emotions, feel those emotions, work with them. Don't assume the initial reaction of, and never, and nor shall it be, but like, we shan't assume that initial reaction is what's there. there's always something deeper. There's always some juicy nugget that comes up in those emotional storms. And trust also that when you're in company that it's coming out, that can be held for you. And I'm pretty excited to share some more about manifestation, you guys, and the clarity. The clarity that comes when you start to really anchor in your own crystallized vision of self. King. And then the reality will begin to reflect it back. It's all connected to these emotional processes, these emotional healings, and then us really increasingly so stepping into freedom. And so the next phase, lots of money transformation, lots of travel still, but then just the pieces, you know, more of the puzzle pieces will be making themselves known. So I hope that was useful to you guys. I look forward to sharing this with you. Please feel free to comment. Feel free to send in your questions. Team Love are really sitting with the Zoom meetings. Thank you so much for all of you who have been attending them and participating in them. It's been so much fun. But with the shiftiness of my own schedule, it's not as, it doesn't feel as anchored, okay? So it doesn't feel as like a real thing. And thus, it's not kind of locking in. And I'm going to let that just sort of ebb and flow over the next few months and see if it comes back in. Otherwise, what I would like to offer in lieu of that is that we go live either here or go live on Facebook. So I want you guys to let me know. Let me know if you want to do a live Q&A, which means you guys type in your messages. And then certainly you guys already know this, but one-to-one coaching calls are discounted here. So it's only £22 for 20 minutes, and which is much lower than the public rate. So love you guys loads. Have a wonderful day, and I'll speak to you really, really soon. Peace out.